Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Health Over Everything podcast, the number one podcast in health and fitness. I'm Stephen Z.
And I'm SoCal Gula. Today we have an information-packed episode about high blood pressure and all you need to know. Stephen is going to be asking me questions and I will be answering them.
All right. With that being said, let's hop right into it. So let's just start it off. What is high blood pressure?
Well, high blood pressure is also known as hypertension, right? And it's the force of the blood against the artery walls. There's the systolic pressure and then there's the diastolic pressure. The systolic pressure is when it's measured as when the heart pumps, the pressure that's against the arteries. And the diastolic pressure is when the heart is at rest in between pumps. That is the pressure against the arteries at that point. So there's two different readings, right? And high blood pressure is anything over 130 systolic over 80 diastolic. So that's the second question you're going to ask there. But so that is what high blood pressure is, and it's measured in millimeters.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to the second question. If that is high blood pressure, what would you consider a normal blood pressure reading?
Yes, that's true. Normal blood pressure is 120 over 80, which a little bit lower than that could be fine. Anything like lower than 110 over 70 is kind of low blood pressure. But normal blood pressure is 180 and 120 systolic over 80 diastolic.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, now that we know those two things,
Yes.
what are some of the risks people are going to have if you have high blood pressure?
Yeah, high blood pressure is a silent disease. They call it the silent killer. It has no symptoms pretty much. Like, I don't think there's any symptoms. And so that's why it's really hard to know if you even have it. But some of the risk that when you do have it, which you should measure it at the doctors or get a at-home device, but it's definitely a risk of heart attack and stroke. Like, so you have increased risk of heart attack, heart failure, heart disease, because it ruins the lining of your arteries and hurts the heart. And it also is the risk of stroke because it can cause blood vessels in the brain to clog, weaken, and even burst, which will make a stroke, right? So those are the two main ones: heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. So those are, deadly, if you have prolonged heart disease. But there's also a peripheral artery disease. This affects the blood vessels in the arms and legs, can cause pain and change, skin colors, and gives you ulcers and difficult walking. It could also give you kidney disease because it damages the blood vessels and that filters the kidneys so they don't work as well to remove the waste from your body. It could also give you some vision loss, and it could strain the damage in the blood vessels in your eyes. So basically, it's like a blood vessel disease, right? So anything that, blood vessels going to your brain, blood vessels going to your heart, blood vessels going to your kidneys is all damaged by the wear and tear of high blood pressure, of the force and pressure of the blood pressing against your artery walls. And that's the main risk of high blood pressure, which is not good.
Yeah, definitely not good. It makes me think too. There's been times where like I've done like a hard sneeze and I'll pop a blood vessel in my eye. When you were
Yeah.
saying some of those symptoms, I'm like, do I have high blood pressure? But I did check mine not that long ago, so I'm in the clear right now.
Yes, and I had high blood pressure. This is when I started my health journey, really getting into it, because it says it's symptomless, but I just felt bad after I ate and stuff. And I don't know if that was a symptom or not, but I checked it and I had high blood pressure. It was really high, hypertension 2, hypertension 3, because there's different levels of it. The higher the blood pressure, it's called hypertension 1, hypertension 2, and hypertension 3. So the higher you go on the reading, the higher the hypertension is. And if it goes any higher than hypertension 3, it's a medical emergency and you got to go to the doctor because you're risking a stroke or heart attack, at any time.
Yeah, it's almost like the pressure is so extreme that you're like on the verge of something just boom,
Yes,
and
exactly.
having all that blood just basically go into your body.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next question. How do people even get high blood pressure?
Well, it is genetics. There are some genetics, like with everything. Like some people say they're fat and other things like that. Well, high blood pressure is also genetic. So if you have a family history of hypertension, which is high blood pressure, you can have an increased risk of high blood pressure, which my father had high blood pressure. I don't know about my grandpa or my mom's dad or their moms, but I know for sure my dad had it. And so that could play in the genetics. I don't know how you actually test that and see if it's a gene or not, but basically it would just be like if your parents had it, you could be at higher risk. And also age, right? So as you get older, obviously your arteries are being used longer as you grow older, right? So they're getting weaker and weaker as time goes on. So there is a thing, 50% of people that are at 40 years old have high blood pressure, and that's not good, right? And it's, due to a lot of our lifestyle factors. But as you get up to 65 or older, 70% of people have high blood pressure. So age is definitely a big factor in who gets high blood pressure, because like you're just getting weaker and weaker, your arteries are, and it's, if you're not taking care of your body, which a lot of Americans aren't, and that will increase it. But also people who are obese, being overweight increases the demand for oxygen, and increases the demand for oxygen and nutrients, which requires more blood circulation, and that will create blood pressure as well. So obesity, lifestyle choices. So whoever has bad lifestyle choices can get high blood pressure. Lack of physical activity, excess alcohol use, smoking can contribute to high blood pressure. Stress, which that's what my dad had a lot. He did have a bad diet, but stress is definitely a huge factor. People that are stressed out a lot, and not everybody, because I know some people that are really skinny and really healthy that stressed out a lot and they don't have high blood pressure, but it's just a factor that factors along with your whole lifestyle. So stress triggers the fight or flight response, which releases hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which can temporarily increase blood pressure. But if you're chronically stressed, then it can chronically have those hormones going and can have chronic high blood pressure, and that's another thing. And one of the big things of people that have a high salt intake, right? So salt causes the body to retain water, and this extra fluid increases the volume of blood in the bloodstream, which raises the blood pressure. Also, over time, the salt intake may make the arteries less flexible and more prone to the buildup of plaque, which will increase blood pressure. Certain drugs, can increase blood pressure, and also diabetes can increase blood pressure, because higher levels of insulin in the blood may cause blood vessels to tighten, and also higher levels of glucose in the blood can damage arteries. Also, diabetes can affect the kidneys' ability to filter and regulate the fluids, leading to excess fluids in the bloodstream, which can also increase high blood pressure. So that's the main of who can get it or how do people get it. That is it. Genetics, age, obesity, lifestyle choices, stress, salt intake, and then also certain drugs and diabetes as well.
Was that the main kind of groups that can get it, as far as like who can get high blood pressure? Is it more of like the obese people?
Yes, definitely obese people, because usually with obesity comes a lot of factors of just lifestyle that just lead to a lot of health problems, cancers, diabetes, and also high blood pressure and stuff like that. So, your sedentary lifestyle, sitting around, not doing nothing, you're not getting exercise to lose that extra weight and building up that strength of your blood pumping. Like if you're doing a lot of cardio, your blood's pumping, helping out your heart, helping out those arteries. You're eating a bunch of junk food or something, like if you're overweight. So that's a big one. But also like men get it more than women, because I don't know why. I think they're more stressed out or something. And then so
angry all the time.
Yeah, we're just crazy guys. Yeah. But obesity is definitely one of the main factors, and that comes with obesity comes with a lot of eating processed foods, eating out, eating fast foods, eating high salt intake food. So a lot of those other things go along with the obesity, like the lifestyle choices and the stress and the salt intake and the lack of sleep and stuff. So yeah, obesity is definitely a number one sign of high blood pressure, especially if you're getting older. As you're getting older, if you have a big stomach, it's most likely you do have high blood pressure, and you should check it with a monitor. And you could buy one easily at Target or Walmart or an Amazon, send it to your house. They're not that much. Check your blood pressure and you'll see it if it's high. And usually if you're obese, it's, and you're older, it's definitely a factor that you might have high blood pressure.
Yeah, it's
as we said,
more likely
50% of people over 40 have high blood pressure.
Yeah. I even had a high blood pressure for a little bit myself, so just hit
Oh, you
40
did?
though, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And like,
Slightly. It wasn't anything crazy, but I think the highest reading I ever got was like 138, and I was smoking a lot, so that
yeah,
probably
smoking
didn't
definitely.
have
We'll get into that. It's about
yeah,
smoking. But also too,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
sometimes you could have your blood pressure changes throughout the day, doesn't just stay the same. So sometimes
Yeah.
you could be nice and chill and you don't have high blood pressure and you might worry about something like me, like I have white coat syndrome. Like you go to the doctors and you're worried about what's happening with your body and they're going to check inside of you. You might get worried. They'll check your they'll check your blood pressure and it'll be high because you're worried
Yeah.
and nervous and your body's producing these hormones and it's elevating your heart rate and your hormones producing and your fight or flight response. And you could have high blood pressure temporarily and then it could go back down to normal when you get home and you're chilling and so it could be temporary. So you want to check it like every morning, like do it a 2 week period at the same time and try to do the average and see, if you had it one time, you're probably good. And then the rest of it's normal. But if you have it every day and it's high blood pressure at the same time, like let's say if you wake up after you fast or something, then you definitely have a problem. And you need to start working on the, in order to get it, there's some things that we'll talk about later in order to get it lower.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of going to be my next question. For those of the people listening that do have high blood pressure, what are some of the things that they can do to lower their blood pressure?
Well, we'll get into that a little bit more on one of the other questions, but yeah, obviously your lifestyle change is number one. Like obviously, like you can go to the doctor and get some medicine, and they will
Mhm.
lower it, and that thins out your blood. They're blood thinners, so thin out the blood, which goes through the arteries easier, and then that will lower your blood pressure and the pressure on the artery walls. Or that's just a quick fix. It doesn't take over the root problems, which like part of your diet, exercising, and stuff like that, which we'll get into.
All right. Let's see. Let's go on to the next question. What kind of foods are good for lowering high blood pressure?
Oh, that one's number 7. But yeah, we'll just switch that one. Who gets high blood pressure was the next question. We're reading off the questions here. So yeah,
Oh, I thought we kind of covered that with the obese people.
oh well, who gets high blood pressure? Anyone can get high blood pressure. We'll just start with that one. Who gets the
Yeah,
high
yeah.
blood pressure? Anyone can get it, but as you could get it, like we said, as you get older, and also crazy enough, like it might not be racist or not, but black people get it more and than most people because they have genetically prone to it, but they also have social factors of being stressed out with social factors, and also people like in lower economic situations, like they are more likely to get high blood pressure than richer people because they have more money and they have more access to higher quality foods and higher quality, more time. Maybe they have more time because they have more time freedom. So people that are poor actually have um, more risk of high blood pressure as well because they're eating the bad food. Like we all know, health food costs more than
Yeah.
McDonald's does. So, and like cheap food. So like those cheap foods are filled with salt. So they also have that as well. Um, People that have low potassium, so like not eating a bunch of fruits and vegetables, like those have potassium in them. Potassium actually helps balance the sodium levels. So you want to get some potassium. People who smoke, as it activates the sympathetic nervous system, which releases hormones that increase the blood pressure. It also leads to arterial damage, smoking does, and inflammation and swelling in the cells lining the blood vessels, leading to cardiovascular conditions, which will make you have high blood pressure. People that are obese because eating more processed foods, we talked about that, is high in sugar, high in salt, and they don't work out, and that leads to obesity. And people that drink too much can lead to weight gain, which will make high blood pressure too. Like if you're just laying around all day because you're hungover, it could lead to impairment of the baroreceptor reflexes, which helps regulate blood pressure. So those are, and people that stress out a lot, those are people that who get high blood pressure too. So I'll add all that in there for question number 6.
All right.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that
question
sounds
number
good.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense too. It's like it reminds me of back when we used to go out drinking at the end of drinking, and of course I'm smoking like a chimney when I'm drinking.
Yes.
At the end of the night, I would always get the munchies. We'd go to some fast food place and just pick out. So I'm sure of living that lifestyle over a period of weeks, months, years just leads up to this high blood pressure in the end. Like You just can't
Yes.
live like that, forever. When you're young, your body might be able to tolerate it, but once you
Yes,
get
exactly.
older, like, yeah, your
And
body just
and you
doesn't
don't
work
have
the
high blood
same.
pressure now, and you're 40,
No.
but you
Yeah.
also are at a healthy weight, which is one of the main things you want to do. If you have high blood pressure, you want to get to a healthy weight. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then, okay. So question number 6 is,
Yeah. What can you do to lower your high blood pressure?
yeah, no, this is what everybody wants to know, right? Because if you have high blood pressure, you don't want that, because as we discussed, it's deadly, right? It's deadly. It can kill you. People have died from it many times. So a healthy diet is the number one, thing you want to do. Like a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and low fat dairy products. So you want a healthy diet. You don't want to go out eating fast food. You don't want to get canned foods because they're filled with salt. There is like beans that have no sodium. So look for things like that, low sodium canned foods if you are going to buy canned foods, and look at and a lot of frozen foods. Like they're high in sodium. They're trying to preserve this food and have a longer shelf life. So they make a lot of sodium in it. Like we learned way back thousands of years ago that sodium preserves food, but it's just way too much to eat, and it's so convenient. So you want to like basically cook at home and monitor your salt levels. Don't be adding salt to your food, and look for low sodium or no sodium foods, right? So that's one thing. You want to reduce that salt intake. Cutting back on your salt on your foods can significantly lower your blood pressure quickly. So like you might be in hypertension 2, you reduce your salt, and you can go hypertension 1. You'll still have high blood pressure, but you can lower it, which is managing it, right? And so like we said, like the doctors recommend, like you want to look at the back of the packages of your food and add up how much milligrams of salt you're eating per day. The salts, the scientists and doctors want to say you want less than 1,300 milligrams of salt per day if you have high blood pressure, right? So you want to add up all your foods that you're eating per day at the nutrients labels on the back. You want 1,300 milligrams or less. A normal person, like if you're not having high blood pressure, like Steven, you want around 2,500 or less, right? So you could eat a little bit more salt. You just don't want to overdo it. But all these processed foods that everyone's eating nowadays, most people are getting, the average they say is around 4,000 milligrams per day or more, right? So you're supposed to get 2,500 or less. People are eating 4,000 or more on average in America. So this is why most people are getting high blood pressure, because there's other countries where people don't even get high blood pressure because they're not eating this processed food system that we're living in, right? And another thing that you want to do to lower your blood pressure is to maintain a healthy weight. Like we were saying, like you have a healthy weight. I have been losing weight. I was at 230 and now I'm at 181, but I still am not at a healthy weight per se, right? I still got a little tiny belly. I'm lowering my blood pressure though. My blood pressure has been going lower, but in order to find out what your healthy weight is, go online and go find out what your BMI is, right? You're just going to plug in a few numbers. Like this isn't totally accurate, but if you're over, like if you're going to be fit and like you're really skinny and you're swole, the BMI is not technically going to be accurate, but most people are just overweight and they're unhealthy. So go check your BMI, put your height in, your age in, and a male or female, and it will tell you what your BMI is and where you're at, right? So if there's going to be healthy weight, there's going to be overweight, and there's going to be obese, and there's severely obese. So you want to be at a healthy weight. So like, first of all, if you're obese, which most people are in America, you want to get it down to overweight, and then you want to get it down to healthy weight, which I'm trying to get down. I'm working on getting it down. I'm not doing it, but so go and see what your BMI is. It's very easy. Google it and put in the numbers, and they'll tell you what your BMI is, and see how much you need to weigh in order to get down a healthy weight, and then try to get as close to that as possible. And then that will lower your blood pressure. That is one of the main things you could do, because if you get down a healthy weight, that means you're doing everything else right? You're exercising, you're eating right, and all that stuff. So that's a big thing as well. And another thing you want to do is, regular physical activity. Try to engage into 150 minutes of exercise per week. This will strengthen your heart and it will help you lose weight, and then it will help you lower your blood pressure, right? You want to limit your alcohol. That's another thing. You want to limit your alcohol, or just to small moderations, or just quit altogether. Definitely you want to quit smoking, because no amount of smoking for you is good on anything. So just quit smoking. Some people say, like, I still want a little bit of alcohol. I want a beer here or a wine glass here. do it once a week, do it once a month or something, but just you should not smoke at all. There's really no benefits. It's really bad for you, and that will help you lower your blood pressure as well. You want to manage your stress in order to lower your blood pressure. That's a big thing. So incorporate some stress reducing techniques such as deep breathing. You can get an app for some of these things to guide you. You could go to YouTube and have something guide you. You want to do some meditation or some yoga. This will help you like get your stress down. And also just look for other ways in lowering your stress. Try to personally do it. Try not to get mad at everything. Like try to figure out how you personally could lower your stress. Maybe even removing toxic people from your life. Quit your job and get a job that's less stressful. You get a dog or something like that, because stress is going to kill you with a high blood pressure. So do you want to have your job or these people around you that are stressing you out, or do you want to live, And then also just monitor your blood pressure. You can buy, like we said, you can buy a blood pressure reader pretty cheap, Walmart and Amazon and Target. Keep track of your blood pressure, write it down on a piece of paper or something, or on a graph, on a spreadsheet, and just know where you're at, so you can kind of know where you're at, and especially get one if you have no clue what your blood pressure is. Like if you're getting 40 years old, 50% of people have it at 40, get one so you could see at least where you're at, like do it a couple times and see where you're at, see if you're in danger or not, because it's a silent killer. So definitely want to do that, and then you can work towards lowering it. But you want to get regular, like if you do have high blood pressure, try to get regular checkups with a doctor. Obviously they'll let you know. And then, but if lifestyle factors, if it's a hypertension 1 or hypertension 2, I would suggest just getting lifestyle changes, like everything we just talked about. Quit smoking, quit drinking, manage your stress, reduce solid intake, exercise, get down to a healthy weight. But if it's too hard for you, or if your blood pressure is hypertension 3 or above, like it's where it's in danger levels, you could go to the doctor and get medication. Like we said, that's not the route I like to take. But if you even get down to a healthy weight and you're still have high blood pressure, then you might need to go to the doctor and get like a blood thinner medication. Just ask your doctor what's good for you, like because some of this medications have side effects. I know somebody that had high blood pressure, took some medication, and it ate away at their at their kidneys, and now they have to do dialysis on their kidneys because they didn't get a blood work done. And when they started taking the medication and seeing that their kidneys were failing. So you want to so that's why lifestyle changes are the best. And those are some ways that you can lower your blood pressure. And those are very good ways as well.
Yeah, good to know. Yeah, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but what kind of foods are there that will help, that are like good for lowering your blood pressure?
Yeah, so there's a lot of good foods out there. Obviously, like we're anything McDonald's or Burger King or anything like that. Anything that has canned foods that's high in sodium is terrible for your blood pressure. And that's how I kind of realized, like they said there's no symptoms, but I felt really bad while eating Subway. And I was just eating chicken with bread and just lettuce and tomato on it. Like nothing else on it, just that. And I still felt bad because the chicken had so much sodium in it. So it's better just go get the chicken at a grocery store and then just buy the chicken. And now you know how much sodium it has in it. You're not putting a bunch of sodium in it to preserve it. And I just cook it without sodium at all. And like, there's obviously different kind of spices and flavors that you could look at. I just put lemon on my chicken now. It's not the greatest, but when you have high blood pressure, it's your life and death. So you try to get that down. We're trying to get down here. Yeah. But leafy greens are good. Leafy greens are high in potassium, and that helps the kidneys get rid of more sodium through the urine. So leafy greens like kale and stuff like that, spinach, and just other leafy greens are really good. They're really high in potassium, so that's really good. They're actually higher in potassium than bananas are, really. So leafy greens
I didn't know
excellent.
that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, bananas are like way down there, honestly, in potassium. Berries, especially blueberries, they are rich in natural compounds called flavonoids. They are rich in antioxidants and relax the blood vessels and reduces your cholesterol as well. So berries are really good, like blueberries. Red beets, or beet juice, is high in nitric oxide, right? Which can open up the blood vessels and lower the blood pressure. So, eating beets is really good. Like if you drink some beet juice or something in an hour or two, you should have lower blood pressure as it opens up your blood vessels. Yogurt or skim milk, which is low-fat dairy products, are high in calcium, which is associated with lower blood pressure. Oatmeal is high in fiber and low in sodium and fat. So these are just things that are not putting bad for you. So you eat oatmeal, I eat oatmeal. We love that.
Yeah.
Bananas, which again are high in potassium, which manages blood pressure. Salmon and fatty fish are good. They are excellent source of omega-3 fatty acids, which can reduce blood pressure. Unsalted seeds, like when you get all this stuff, it's like you don't want no salt. That's like the enemy for blood pressure. Salt
Yeah.
is bad, bad, bad. But you also need, your body needs salt in order to survive. So you still need salt, but there's, like we were saying, at a different, there's, what was that salt that Dave had?
Celtic salt.
Celtic salt and some sea salts are a lot better than iodine table salt. So like just avoid table salt. Try to look for healthier options salts. But unsalted seeds, they're high in potassium, magnesium, and other minerals to reduce blood pressure. Garlic and herbs. Garlic can help reduce hypertension by increasing the amount of nitric oxide, just like the beets, in the body. Olive oil is a healthy fat that contains polyphenols, which are inflammation fighting compounds. So don't use seed oils, don't use vegetable oils or something like that. Use olive oil to cook your food in. That's just much better. You don't want seed oils. It's a plant oil, or avocado oil, which is more expensive. But olive oil, avocado oil, that's what you want to cook in. Dark chocolate is a small amount, can help lower blood pressure due to its flavonoids as well. They can cause blood vessel dilation, which will lower blood pressure. Pistachios and nuts, but get the unsalted nuts. They are the healthy way to increase the intake of healthy fats, right? Pomegranates, they can also help reduce blood pressure. They say reduce red meats, but if you're going to eat red meats, try to get the grass-fed meats, because the corn-fed meats are the worst. Like they're not, like I heard that even like what the animal eats is what you're getting in your body as well. So the animals, the cows and stuff that eat the cornmeal, they are actually higher in saturated fats than cows that do naturally eat grass, because that's what a cow was meant to do, eat grass. So they have a lot less saturated fat. So if you're going to eat red meat, eat the grass-fed ones. Go to a farmer's market or even a farm or something, and a rancher, and get your foods off of there. But obviously reduce sweets and sugar beverages, because sugar can lead to diabetes, like we were talking earlier. The higher insulin levels and the glucose in your bodies mess with a lot of your insides of your bodies, which will ruin your arteries, which will create it'll make them harder and clog them, which would make higher blood pressure. And obviously beans are high in fiber, which like you could cook them, which they take a while, but you could also, what I've been doing is getting the canned beans with no salt in them. And that's another way too, because they're high in fiber, which is good for you.
Yeah, no BPA too. Trying to get as healthy as possible.
Yeah, sometimes the cans, right? The cans have BPA chemicals in them. Some do, they might. So look for that label on the cans. You can find them definitely at Sprouts or like farmer markets, the good ones. Most of the foods at farmer markets are a lot better than other places,
Yeah, cost a little bit more, but can you really put a price on your health?
No, you can't. And like that's the thing too. Like a lot of people say these cheap foods are the cheap foods, like the processed foods and stuff, are cheaper. But if you really look at the total cost of what it takes to farm these through like massive farms, and like the health problems and stuff, is actually costs society way more money for these foods like that. The healthier foods cost a little bit more, but they're usually farmed better. They don't have the runoff of like a lot of hormones and nitrogen that comes from the fertilizer, the oil-based, petroleum-based fertilizers that run off into the ocean. So there's a lot of environmental impact, a lot of medical impact from humans, because like these animals are not supposed to eat this. So then we get into our bodies and it ruins our blood pressure and stuff like that. You have to take off of work. You have to go to the doctors. You get higher bills. So really the healthier food in the long run is cheaper than the cheaper food. But, that is another thing as well.
Yeah, plus you're just going to be feeling better, eating more nutritious foods.
You definitely feel better, yeah.
All right, let's move it along to the next question. Can high blood pressure be reversed or cured?
Yes, right. Technically it cannot be, they say it cannot be totally cured, because it's kind of a chronic condition. But I say yes, because the body is an amazing thing and it can heal itself. And it's just one of the most craziest machines out there. And if you make all the necessary changes for long periods of time, yes, it can reverse it and you can get back to normal levels. So there is hope, but it takes commitment, right? But although it can be reversed, it's not necessarily cured. You can't just go back, lower your blood pressure and go back to your old ways. Because
Yeah.
if you go back to your old ways, you start eating a bunch of salt and processed foods again, you gain the weight back, you start being a sedentary lifestyle, just sitting there and doing nothing, eat a bunch of salt, you'll be right back to where you started. So it's not just like, okay, I did it really good for a year. My blood pressure is excellent. Let me just go back, because it's just going to go, because now as you get older, your arteries still are getting older as well. And when you get 80 years old, you see an old person, how their body looks compared to a 20-year-old. So your arteries are like that as well. So it's even easier as you get older by going back to the lifestyle. So you got to keep on top of it. And for most people, they don't reverse it or lower it, and they just use like medication to control it, right? And this doesn't get the root problem cured, but it will help you get your blood pressure lower. Because even some of my family members or people that I know, a lot of Americans, they don't want to go and change their lifestyle. They don't want to exercise and lose the weight because it's really hard, right? And they don't want to, or they're just, mentally, it's so hard to do it. They don't want to get past the first month or so of all the withdrawal symptoms that you're going to get. Or they don't have enough money. They just think, oh, I don't have enough money to pay for the healthy foods. And they're just so used to it, or they're just a lack of education. They don't know. That's why we're doing this podcast to help you out with this blood pressure stuff. But so they just go to the doctor and say, what's wrong with me? I feel bad. And they say, well, you have high blood pressure. And they'll give you a pill, give you a blood thinner, sometimes even a couple pills. And then your blood pressure will go lower, but you'll still be overweight. You'll still be at risk for heart attack. You'll still be at risk of stroke. And then you have all the side effects that the medication will bring, which if you're living a healthy lifestyle, you're eating leafy greens, you're eating really good foods. There's no really side effects. There's not going to be a side effect for eating broccoli. Some people say they might get a stomach ache or something. Some people eat some other things, like just don't eat the processed foods. Go eat some chicken, go eat like even a red meat steak, let's say, if you want to be on a carnivore diet, get a grass-fed one or one from the rancher, but just go at your house and make it, and don't put a bunch of salt on it. Don't put a bunch of spices on it, and then just eat that. So it's like, either way, a lifestyle change is going to be better. Like, you're not going to have as much risk as the medication will, but you can control it. So there is hope out there. Always, if you just listen to that stuff and you really get it under control and get your diet dialed in and your health over everything, because health over everything, baby. If you get that all dialed in, you can definitely lower your blood pressure without medication, and you can live a nice, healthy lifestyle and reduce your risk of heart disease and stroke dramatically.
Yeah. It's crazy too. I was thinking too, I think when people who are older, I feel like that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I feel like it's harder for the older crowd to make that lifestyle change. I think once you get past a certain age, you're kind of just set in your ways, and it's even harder. Like, I've known people that have had a stroke, and basically said, like, I'm old enough, my kids are raised, like, I'm not going to change my lifestyle. I'm going to keep doing what I do. And if I die, I die. Like, so be it. Like,
yes.
And, obviously you have to live with the consequences of those decisions, but that's how some people are.
And it's crazy too, because like you're saying, older people do that. And it's like, that's what my dad, he had high blood pressure and he took medication, and he's just like, I'm just continue to live how I want to live. I don't care. I'm old. Like, I don't, like, what am I going to do? We live to 90 and have somebody wipe my ass or something? But it's like crazy, because like I was 39, and that's when I started, 38, 39, when I started feeling like this. Like, I'll tell you a symptom. They say it's symptomless, but I was sitting there, and I would eat some Subway, and I would go home and lay down, and I would just feel my stomach pumping, like beating like hard with my heart, which there is an artery that goes down through your stomach there, a big artery that pushes the blood to your legs and stuff. So, but it was just beating harder, and I was just like, what is that? And I felt bad. Like, every time I would eat Subway, I felt really bad. And I just felt like, am I going to have a heart attack? What's wrong with me? Blah, blah, blah. So there was, like, they say it's symptomless, but I think that was a symptom to me personally. And, when you're 38, 39, you still think you have a lot of life to go. So if you're like 30 years old, 35 years old, 38, 39, 40, check your blood pressure, go get a machine, check it. And if you have high blood pressure, start making the lifestyle changes now, because you're still young enough that you could live to 60, 70, 80, 90 years old if you get it under control. But if you just don't ever check it and you keep continuing living like you do, you could have a heart attack. Luke, what's his name? The guy from 90210, Luke Perry, he died of a stroke because of high blood pressure. And then what's that black dude, that that's on the Django. Jamie Foxx, he
Jamie
just
Foxx.
recently had a stroke, and he's only 50. And you think he's 52, and then Luke Perry is 50, I think. But they both had strokes, right? And these are at 50 years old because they probably didn't check it at 38, 39, 40 and said, I'm going to get this under control. If they did, they probably wouldn't have had those strokes at that. If you get your blood pressure down to normal levels, your risk of stroke goes down a lot. So that he looks fit, but just because you look fit doesn't mean you are fit. You could still eat a restricted amount of calories and lose weight, but have a high amount of salt intake, which continues your blood pressure and high blood pressure. And also you could have stress and other things like that, as we talked about. So if you're 38, 35, 40, 50% of people have it at 40 years old. So 1 in 2 people, you're hanging out with you and your friend, one of you have high blood pressure. So check your blood pressure and get it under control, just so you know what it is. That's the only real way to see how high it is and what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like that tells a pretty good picture about high blood pressure. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we end this podcast?
Yeah, just a few things. Just make that lifestyle change. People, like we are just talking about just in that last segment there, make that child. Your diet is a huge part, right, of lowering blood pressure, especially the processed foods, the fast foods, even Subway, like we were saying. Pretty much all foods that are at restaurants are going to have anything that's at a restaurant, even nice restaurants and fast food restaurants are going to have a lot of sodium in their food because it makes the food last longer. We have a shelf life system. They try to make it last longer, and also it makes them taste better, like salt. That's why we put it like our bodies love sugars. Our body loves salt. So these restaurants are going to have high sugar and high salt in their foods. So it's best just to cook at home with no salt. So your diet is huge, right? Also start exercising with your diet. Losing excess weight, getting down to that healthy weight is one of the hugest things you could do for lowering your blood pressure, because that means you're doing everything else correctly. But you could still, like I said, you could still be skinny and fit and on a calorie restriction and have a high blood pressure if you're not limiting that salt intake and a lot of other things that we talked about. Stress is a killer. I know people who develop high blood pressure from being stressed out all the time. And recent studies, how you can lower your like how you can lower your stress levels. And one way is to sleep. Like I always say, like one of my number one in my health like pyramid or whatever you want to call it, my health list is always sleep. That's like the basis of it. Sleep is one of my main points of health, is to get enough sleep. So it's the first building block that I say to it helps your body repair itself. Your body repairs itself when you're sleeping. So you want to get enough sleep, but it also helps reduce the stress levels. It lowers your stress because now you're not so stressed out by not getting enough sleep. Your body is nice, well rested. It's not getting all stressed out. And if your body's stressed, then you're stressed, and it kind of just compounds on itself, right? And it also makes you more,
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and it also makes you cognitively more aware when you get sleep. So now you're thinking, your brain's real fresh. So now you can make those healthy choices, those when you're going to get in your food, and when you're like, okay, now I'm like more fresh. Now I'm like, oh, I'm going to make sure I could wait a little bit to go home and cook instead of just running to the fast food restaurant and getting that, because you're less stressed, you're more rested and stuff. So sleep is very important to me, and also gives you more energy to work out, right? Because if you're super tired, you're like, oh, I don't want to work out today because I'm too tired. But all in all, as with all diseases, you want to prevent them before they happen, right? So I started changing my life when I figured out I had high blood pressure. So that's why it's so important to me. My dad died of a heart attack. And he had high blood pressure. So this is a important subject to me. I really care about it and helping you all, but just, you want to prevent them before they're happening. If you, if you don't know if you have high blood pressure, or you feel yourself getting like fatter or something, like if you're your late 20s and you're getting fatter as you're getting older, you want to prevent that before you get it, right? So you got to make sure you put your health over everything. Everything, right? To prevent these things like high blood pressure and all other health conditions for that. So with that, I hope you all the best. And I hope that was a lot of information that you got out of this podcast with blood pressure, because, like I said, it's very important to me. I had it. My dad died from it. I'm still actually trying to lower it. I think mine is kind of good. It did go lower, but sometimes I stress out when I do take my reading, and I get worried because I'm thinking, oh, is it high? Even though I'm doing all these good things, but I just got to keep working on it, and I'm still not at a healthy weight. I still probably need to lose another 15 pounds or so. even though I'm from 230 to 181, I need to get down to like low 170s. Maybe like it shows me like 163, but I'm trying to get as low as I can where you can actually see
Mhm.
my abs and stuff. And that means I know that I'm at a healthy weight. It's like your body fat percentage. You know, you want to be around, what'd you say you are? 17%?
Yeah, I'm about 17 right now.
17% is great. I'm at 24% body fat. And the more body fat you have, the more risk you have high blood pressure. So I'm at 24, Steven's at 17. And that's what I'm trying to get down to 17. So once I get down to there, you know, my blood pressure is just going to get lower and lower as I do that. And as long as I do all the other things as we talked about. So I wish you all the best with it.
All right. Thank you for that. I even learned a few things I didn't know about that. So thanks for sharing the information.
Yes, for sure. And I guess that's it for this episode of Health Over Everything podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. SoCal Gula,
Steven Z signing out.
and we'll see you on episode, what is it, 12?
12.
All right, see y'all later.
See ya.